What is up, everybody? My name is Brett Austin, and this is Touchline Episode 5, where we discuss soccer, talk about soccer, answer questions, doing all this for Torn by Sports. And so let's jump into it. First thing we got to get into is this past week, Nick Rimando went out and got the record that he's been chasing since April. He is now tied with the most shutouts in the history of the MLS, and it is a huge record for him. It just goes to show how well of a goalkeeper he is. He's shut down guys out of 300 plus matches. He's turned around and shut out 112 of them. And the biggest thing in that entire span, out of 112, all of them except for 36, he did in an RSL uniform. So that record is not an RSL guy record. I mean, he had 36 shutoffs somewhere else, but most of that came in an RSL uniform. Add in the fact that in the second half, early in the second half, pretty much for 45 minutes straight, RSL had to play with 10 men. Now, when it comes down to that situation, he is carded. And the reason he's carded in that situation is he's ruining a goal-scoring opportunity. He beat the defense. He's supposed to be allowed the right to score on the defense. What happens there is he was fouled, denied a goal-scoring opportunity. I don't feel that he deserved a red, but, he deserved a card. And so for the next 45 minutes, pretty much, Nick Rimando had to play with, down a man, and he came up with some big-time saves. The biggest of them all was that one with about 30 seconds left. He parries a shot, and it goes just outside of his reach where he can't grab it. And all Nick can do is just jump on it, even though there's a guy sliding into it. Put it in the back of the net. It's, it's a huge accomplishment for Rimando. He's able to get on top of that ball, and pretty much at that point, you knew Rimando had his record. He tied that record, and you knew it was going to happen. Rimando also tied Kevin Hartman in 56 less games than what Hartman did it in. So essentially, Rimando is going to probably go through and break this record and could probably extend this record, unless you can start seeing teams build defensively minded like RSL has been in the past few years. I know this year has been a kind of a change on things. The defense is starting to show a lot of holes. I'm not sure if that's more of a different scheme or something like that they're playing, because now they're under a new head coach, or if age is catching up to them, or if teams are figuring them out or whatnot. But defense is starting to slack off. And so unless you can find another team that's going to put together a defensive-minded team like RSL has kind of been in the past, and then finding a goalkeeper with that much experience and that much talent, it's he could essentially blow this up, and it could be like the NBA with the assist record. Nobody's going to run that one down. Rimando has the chance now to extend that out there. Rimando plays outstanding every night. I haven't ever seen Rimando take a night off. And so it all comes down to the guys in front of him. Those guys played outstanding for the entire 90 minutes. What's going to be tough, though, is in their next game, is the past game, they had 3 different defenders get carded. 2 of them were on yellow card accumulation, meaning you're only allowed so many yellow cards. After a certain point, you're not allowed to, you can't go, I think it's a 3-match span. It changes by league. But if you get a card, you have say it's 3 matches, you have 3 games where you cannot get another yellow card, or you're forced to miss the next game. And if you can go 3 games without it, you're taken off of yellow card warning, good graces with the referees again. And so it makes it so you can't go out every game and be a little reckless and know that, okay, I can just get a yellow card and I'll be fine. And so he's going to have a very crazy, and I mean crazy because it might force them into changing the formation a little bit, depending on what they decide to go with. But you're going to see some guys get some minutes and kind of get a look at what the future of RSL defense is going to look like. We've seen it in the past. Carlos Salcedo is an amazing talent. The only thing that he should be starting for RSL. He should. His only issue is the 2 guys in front of him deserve that spot. They play outstanding night after night after night. Salcedo can keep up with them and everything like that, but these are guys that are more experienced, and they're going to just turn to the experienced guys. Carlos Salcedo is currently right now getting some nice playing time as the MLS homegrowns are tied at halftime with the Portland U23s 0-0, and Salcedo, from the looks of things, has been playing really well. Haven't been able to watch the game, but it's great to see that he's playing like that. Speaking of the U23s, not Portland, but the United States, Luis Gil from Real Salt Lake was recently named to the camp for the under-23 side. And they're pretty much preparing for the Olympics. They're all meeting in the Bahamas to train, and it's from August 3rd to 7th. Pretty much coaches are getting guys together, looking at them, seeing who they want to be putting together. Not only that, they'll play the Bahamas senior national team. What you're essentially looking at is they're trying to put this team together because they generally only send the under-23s to the Olympics. And so, I was quickly going over the list. A few names stand out to me, but the thing that stands out to me most is Luis Gil is probably the most experienced of them. There's a lot of young guys on here, a lot of guys that haven't had a whole lot of experience at this event, an event of this size, playing a match of this size, even though it's just a training match. So this is a time for Luis to pretty much step up and show that he can be a leader in the future of Team United States. And you better believe Klinsmann's going to be watching this. And if Gil can impress, Gil's going to get more time up top. To me, it's only a matter of time before Luis is called up. I love Luis's game. The more and more I think about it, the more and more I'm in love with the idea of him playing the top of the diamond. But as I was going through and I was, looking more at our future, Luis's spot might not be at the top of the diamond. It might be in the wings where he's playing now, and allowing Plata to come down and be that new creative controller after Javier Morales has left the team. What was also kind of lost in the entire shuffle of this past week was, and mainly because Real was worrying more about getting 3 points, they were also, trying to get into that Supporter Shield race, trying to get into that, getting playoff race set up and everything like that, doing different things, was the fact that Real Salt Lake went into a rival's home. They went into Commerce City, Colorado. They played Colorado Rapids, and they beat the Colorado Rapids at home. With those 3 points, they were able to take home the Rocky Mountain Cup. Huge win for these guys. 8 of the last 9 years, it has come home to Real Salt Lake, and it's it's a rivalry that at one time kind of meant something. Um, when it was first thrown together, it was more or less thrown together because of um, geography. They were the two closest to each other. I mean, Colorado won it the first year, then they turned around and won it the second year, and Real won it, from 2007, and then finally lost it in 2013, and then won it back in 2014. I mean, and there for a while they would be tied, or especially there in 2008, 9, 10, the goals aggregate would be tied up, or they would only be winning by one, and so it'd be great it was a great rivalry. But as I threw it out there on Twitter today, I asked, what's your favorite rivalry? And I got a lot of great answers. I mean, the United States and Mexico, I mean, that's always going to be a great rivalry. It's mostly a geography one, but there's actually a lot of bad blood between the two teams. What also there is that I was getting a lot of is a lot of European answers, which is great if you have the chance to watch football, as they call it over there. I mean, the El Clasico is great. Real Madrid, Barcelona, it's usually top talent, top guys, grand stages. I mean, you get Lionel Messi versus Ronaldo. It's pretty much like the two headliners for each team. It's great. You also get other ones like Celtic and the Rangers. I mean, those fans hate each other. Arsenal and Tottenham. Other ones we got was Liverpool, Manchester United. I mean, people are, looking overseas, which is great. I mean, and it's because there's a lot of talent overseas. For the longest time, the kind of thought process, and it still kind of is that if you get invited to play in Europe, that's the same as being invited to play in the NFL. I mean, that's the top thing. I mean, it's starting to change as new talent's being found, new talent's being developed, different leagues are changing and stuff like that. And so some of the other leagues might be soon pushing to be some of the top leagues and stealing those titles away from some of the European. But if you have the chance to watch it, European football is great to watch. And what you also get is you get a sense of different types of style. Growing up, I was always taught there's two different types of style. The first type of style is called, my coaches always called it the Brazilian style. And what that is a lot of aerial, try to keep it in the air, flashy. If you get the ball, you try to play one-on-one, dribbling around guys. If you get a shot, you try to make it spectacular. You see this a lot of South American countries, stuff like that. The other one that I was always taught was, and this is the most common, is European soccer, where you generally try to spread the field, take the balls down the wing, cross it in, short passes, completed passes, not as flashy. If you want to see those different styles against each other, look at the World Cup final. You had Argentina, who kind of plays a little bit more flashy, versus Germany, who's a little more conservative. Pass the ball, complete your passes. The small passes, setting everything up. And so, as you watch European soccer, some people find it boring, and that's only because of that. That's kind of the style that's preached there. A lot of the guys that grew up playing in Europe play that game. And so if you get the chance, watch it. Check out the rivalries. If you got time, get online and just look at fan reactions. One of the coolest things I've ever experienced is I was in Pompeii, Italy, going through just looking at all these relics, looking at all this stuff. And what happened was, we're sitting there and we're listening to this tour guide, and he's telling us about what went on and everything, and all of a sudden you just heard this explosion off in the distance. And you know, at the time I'm 17 years old, and I'm like, whoa, that's kind of crazy. And he's like, no, don't worry about it. That's normal. Okay. As we left Pompeii, we started driving through the town outside, and what had happened is Napoli had tied their rivals, and in doing so ensured enough points to be promoted into the next level of Italian soccer, into the highest level, because the way it's set up overseas is you have like A, B, C. That's the simplest way of putting it. A is your top teams. Then you have B, then you have C. And what you do is they'll choose a number. It's generally 3. And what it is the top 3 team in C get to move to B next year. The 3 worst teams got to move down. And so they do that all the way up and down. What happened was Napoli got that win, got the points necessary, and was moving up into the top series, Serie A. And so the town was celebrating and everything, and it was kind of crazy because they moved our hotel to this. I mean, we're supposed to be in downtown of this little city and everything like that. They moved us on the outskirts on top of this cliff where we could overlook the city, and all night long fireworks are going off as we're going to our hotel room. And we're driving up this like little windy, narrow road. I mean, it's only big enough for our tour bus, and there's cars flying down it and flying up it past us and everything. There's pickup trucks with beds ripped out, and their mascot is a donkey, and they had a donkey sitting in the back, and they had painted it blue because that was their color. And these guys are just going crazy. And seriously, when I got up the next morning and we was going out to sea to, you know, catch a boat, we was going to go into Capri. As we're headed out there, these guys are still celebrating like 14 hours later. Soccer is a religion to a lot of these people. And so if you get the chance, watch the supporter sections, especially during games. If you follow me on Twitter, every once in a while, if I come across them and I see them, I'll retweet pictures of different supporter sections, and some of them are amazing. You'll see, it seriously looks like the fans section is on fire because there's so much smoke going off, red lights and stuff like that, and it's cool just to watch. Our first ever Real Salt Lake game that I sat inside Rio Tinto was in the time it was the KFC corner. Right now it's the Mayhem corner, the Maverick Mayhem corner. But I was sitting in the very last seat, in the next row. I mean, like the next section next to us was the supporter section. I had the most fun I ever had because sitting next to the supporters is amazing. It's amazing to go through something like that. I mean, a lot of people will look at it and be like, those guys are crazy. And it's, I mean, it's typical to look at it and think they're crazy. You know, maybe it's not your cup of tea or something like that, and that's fine. I mean, and some of those guys get crazy. They'll throw batteries on the field. I've heard crazy things about throwing, you know, squid or fish or bananas or something like that, and a lot of it is racially charged, and it's not fair. But, you know, watch the fans in some of those games while you're watching it. If they show reactions, and you can see kind of a love for it, kind of like you do with Americans in the NFL. You know, you see people in Green Bay shirtless, their chest painted, and they're standing out there in the cold and everything like that, and everybody doesn't think twice because that's normal. The same thing in soccer. That's normal. Those supporter sections are normal. Going back to what the topic was, though, is a lot of it was thrown out is I didn't ever once get Real Salt Lake versus Colorado Rapids. That rivalry will always be there, but until both teams are at that same level, that same high playing level, it's not going to mean anything. The team that's currently right now that's playing against us in that same way, though, is the Seattle Sounders, and I was getting tons of answers. Real Salt Lake versus Seattle Sounders. When Real Salt Lake and the Seattle Sounders play each other, there's usually huge ramifications. I mean, it's usually either a playoff game or there's 3 points at stake, or it's the end of the season. Both teams are fighting for the top of the table. Both of them want to be the #1 team, and this is the first time they ever meet. And so, actually, August 16th, Seattle traveling to Rio Tinto. If you want to see a real rivalry game in the sense of a Real Salt Lake rivalry game that means something to them, go out and watch this game. As it sits right now, Real Salt Lake has played 2 more matches than Seattle has played, and Seattle yet leads in the Supporters Shield standings. If Real can go in there, get in there at home, take 3 points away, it's going to make it harder for Seattle to try to stay out in front of them. Head-to-head, though, in the all-time series, Real leads 5-3-4. But if you include Open Cup matches and postseasons, the season's really even. It's Real's 1-6, Seattle's 1-6, and they're tied for 5. So all that shows me is when it comes to playoff times or when it means something, Real struggles against Seattle, and so they kind of don't like to meet them in the playoffs, and this is the reason why. But it's going to be a huge match, and it'd be a great match to go watch. The last thing I wanted to jump into, I know tonight's podcast is kind of short. I know it's a different night. The reasoning behind that is I have some commitments for the next couple days. I'll be away. I won't actually be anywhere near a phone or internet or anything like that, and so I figured to give it to you, I got to give you guys something. But next week there won't be a podcast, and in return what we're going to do is I am going to be at the Real Salt Lake versus Club Tijuana game. And I'm thinking at halftime, getting as many people together as we can, let's just, they call it a tweet up. If you're interested, let me know. And I'll, send out things to remind people. But I'm thinking halftime, let's get together. If you guys got questions, I'll run down the questions for you guys. If you don't got questions and you guys just want to hang out for halftime, that's great too. But if you can, get out to this game. It's going to be a great game. I've watched a little bit of Club Tijuana highlights for the past year that I can find ever since they announced the series. It's going to be a fun match. Maybe you won't see the guys that you're normally used to, but you're going to get a look at what Real is kind of building for the future, because it's a lot more of their depth that's going to play. And so you can see guys that you can get excited about, and it's going to be fun. So if you guys are interested, get at me, and let's set something up. We can, do whatever. It's going to be a fun match. As always, send me questions. I love answering questions, even some of the crazy ones. One asked me today was, juice boxes or Capri Suns. I believe I answered with juice boxes, even though they're smaller. It's a wash because you still get your orange slices. And so, keep sending questions. Let me know what else you guys want to hear, what you guys want to talk about. As it gets closer to, different things, we'll talk about it, and, United States national team. Something that you guys should get into is this coming Wednesday night. It's going to be fun. The MLS All-Stars are playing Bayern Munich in the All-Star game. lineups haven't been announced, so we don't know who we're going to see play or anything like that to start the game. But what's going to be fun, though, is Nick Romano has been called, and so has Kyle Beckerman. It's your two United States national team guys. They're going to go out, they're going to play, and it's going to be fun. You know, watch the game. It's going to be on ESPN. A little lighthearted game, but it's, you know, it's still a fun game to watch. A few years ago, Salt Lake hosted this. I'd love to see Salt Lake host another MLS Cup. And so hopefully in the next few years we can see something like that. It'd be fun. But, you know, going forward, guys, keep sending questions. Keep talking about soccer. It's fun. Keep looking into soccer. I mean, maybe MLS doesn't fit your style. If it doesn't fit your style, look into Europe, look into Mexico. There's leagues everywhere. And when it comes to finding people to talk about it with, I guarantee if you go to Twitter, you can find guys to talk any type of soccer with. I'll talk any type of soccer with you. I may not know what's going on in Japan and what's going on with those leagues, but you know what? Let's talk soccer. And so with that, guys, I'm signing out tonight. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.